Hi Aries, this is your March 2019 reading. Aries, as we have been talking about it for the last couple of months as well as in your annual video, this is a very unique year for you from a career perspective. We are looking to completely restructure, rewire the way we are as a leader and the way we handle our career. And that journey begins with our season this month after 20th of March. We are looking at changing something in the way we are as a leader, changing something very significantly, because there's a karma that is getting done from an old way of being in terms of our career, in terms of our work situation, in terms of the actual job that we do, because we have South Node, Pluto and Saturn coming together during the course of April, but from the middle of March you start feeling the influence of this karmic release, and this is a cycle which will continue for the next 1 year. You'll be reforming, changing, restructuring, this whole redefinition of who you want to be known in terms of your public personality, in terms of what kind of legacy you want to leave behind. That will get reformatted, redefined over the course of next 1 year. But this is a very powerful journey that is getting kick-started, and it is getting kick-started with a very innovative embodiment in it, because we have Uranus moving into Taurus on 6th of March in the same month. That changes the way we get value out of our talents. It sort of changes, it gives us a new direction of material reality. It changes our existing situation such that the outdated attitudes towards things, towards material things, towards the way we want to make money, all of that changes. The unusual, the genius, the material genius comes out, and it starts showing up in our day-to-day life in terms of what we want to do. And it shows up in the way we want to make money. And we need to get ahead of that energy. I hope you did that, as we've been talking about it for the last couple of months. And Uranus in Aries in our own sign for the last 7 years has set us up for this journey. There will be more lessons that will come because Saturn is involved. There are lessons to be learned in terms of how we handle this success, how we handle this responsibility, how do we make this a success. But the opportunities start flowing in terms of adventure, in terms of making money differently, in terms of modifying who we are as a public personality or as a leader essentially. And we are looking to convert that over the course of next 1 year, because this is a very significant start of season for you and for me. And we're looking forward to that. The end of the month brings out a very beautiful full moon, so there will be some first initial fruits of labor that will come through at the end of the month with the full moon that is coming through. Either a commercial partnership materializes, or some project comes to fruition, or some sort of funding coming through through a social network. So there is some first fruits of labor that are coming through. And from 20th of March, of course, with Sun moving in our sign, you'll see the vitality return back, because right now with the season being of Pisces, we are working behind the scene, and it is the right thing to do. We have to first evaluate what we are doing, lay down the groundwork, and then be out and about, which happens from 20th of March. But mind it that Mercury will be retrograde till 28th of March. So formal launch of anything should only be done in April. But laying the foundations forward, putting the groundwork for this forward movement will begin from 14th of March. In fact, from 14th of March, you'll start receiving new opportunities. You'll start receiving new information, how to make this a success, how to make things work for you, and what needs to be released in terms of your existing career, existing job, or existing way of being as a leader in your career right now. This is a very significant cycle for you. We'll go into the details about each of these transits, and I'll request you to go through the details section of this video, because it is a very important start for you. This is where we start materializing our legacy. So it is important to pay attention to the signs that are coming through during the course of this month, because with Pisces season, we get epiphanies, we get synchronicities, we get information through sources that we did not know before. We even get faith and support from the corners we did not know before. So it's important to stay present, give yourself the time and the attention instead of getting rushed at this moment. Allow the things to come to you, allow the information to come to you, especially till 14th of March. Absorb the information that is coming and give yourself the time and the attention and a little bit of peace of mind to be able to move forward. Sometimes we have to step back a little bit to gain perspective about things before we can move forward, and we move forward after 14th of March. So let's dig into the details of things. I'm really excited for the cycle that is coming through. Pluto is very, very powerful. It is not an easy exercise that we are all engaged in. I'm myself an Aries sun and moon. I know how it feels when we have Pluto and Saturn both working together on our sun and moon, which is happening for me right now. But this is a very, very powerful journey for us. Have faith in your journey and move forward. Let's dig in. The first key transit of this month is that Mercury is retrograde from 5th of March till 28th of March, and it is going retrograde in your hidden house, in your house of unconscious. There is a need to retreat or stay away from things which might be felt at the initial part of the month, and it's required right now because it shows us the gaps in our self-care. It shows us the gap in what we need to do to move forward. It sort of is asking us to close the previous cycle. It is asking us to review the previous cycle, sort of forgive yourself for anything of the past and forgive the past overall and close the chapter on it. We are looking to sort of feed the soul at this time and release and recharge because we are getting ready for a very, very significant chapter of our life. During this time, the intuition is really, really high, and this is a very, very fertile ground for creativity. So if you're engaged in any creative field, and we all have creativity in our life in one way or the other in the work we do, creativity is added. This is the month, especially till 20th of the month, we are encouraged to use our right brain. We are encouraged to use the non-linear way of thinking, which is different from before. And we channel a very different side of ourselves when we do that. This is not a side that we normally channel. We are moving away from numbers, fact, and the overload of information, and rather see the picture more holistically from 30,000 feet, because sometimes you need to see it this way to figure out whether we are going in the right direction or not. This is where you're creating the aim of where you want to go in the next phase of your life, what you need to leave behind from the past for real. This is not a simple ending because Mercury is going retrograde at 29 or 30 degree of Pisces. That is the last degree of the zodiac. There is something we are leaving behind permanently. There is a permanent ending of something, a mold, a way of being, a sort of archetype, a prototype that we thought that we have to live by, that we created for ourselves because of our upbringing or because of the way we thought this is who we want to become. We are leaving that behind, acknowledging the significance of that moment, acknowledging the significance of where we are going right now, and being sensitive to the messages that you're receiving, certain subtle messages, certain subtle ways that the universe is trying to tell you on how to go about it, what to release, how to be more effective in this new phase of your life. That is very, very important. So give yourself the time and you will receive the help at this point in time. The moment we withdraw, because this is Mercury and evening star, you have to withdraw a little bit from the crowd, from over socializing, because Venus is in 11th house right now. You are when Venus is in 11th house, we are a social butterfly. That's just how it is. People want to reach out to us, people want to network, people want to talk to us on emails or phones. There's more set of people coming our way, which is great, which is important to feed yourself at this point in time, and it will help you going forward. But you need to give yourself some time during the course of the day at this point in time to plan forward, to put an end to the old and bring out these hidden talents, these latent talents which are explored at this point in time, which will help you going forward. And you will feel that your imagination is very vivid right now. We will be and we are required to dream beyond limits right now. This is the time when we are asked to sort of lower our own self-imposed boundaries, remove the limitations that we impose on ourselves, and let ourselves dream and fly high. Imagine who you would want to become if you did not have the limitations that you yourself have imposed on yourself. And give yourself that moment, especially till 9th and 10th, and we have a reset on 8th and 9th when moon is in Aries, and we get an emotional reset. Who do you want to become if you did not have the limitations that you are imposing on yourself? And Uranus in our sign over the course of last 7 years, apart from bringing sudden changes and sudden shifts, it has introduced us to us. It has introduced us to sort of us without any embellishments, without any masks, without any fake Aries don't have any fake face anyways, but being true to who you are. It has introduced you to that. So now, how do we live that? How do we live with that? How do we create value out of that? Because now Uranus is moving into a material sign. How do we create value out of this new person who we have become, who is completely different from who he or she was from the old version? So this is the phase where we have to leave behind the fears, the old phase. We are putting an end to a chapter. There is a other side waiting for you, but you have to let go the fear of falling, the fear that there may not be somebody there to catch us. Because Jupiter is in our house of faith. It is in our house of belief. This is the year when we manifest if we believe in our dreams, if we believe in what we are going for. So this is the phase when you're being asked to revitalize, release, rejuvenate this faith in your capabilities, in your talents, in your imagination, in your ability to go beyond your current circumstances, beyond that to something that you truly want to do. So whenever there are negative thoughts that are coming to you, this is sort of an exercise period where we are learning how to get rid of that. Because when Saturn is squaring our sun or moon, negative thoughts do come, doubts do come. The doubts on whether we will be able to do it, whether we have it within us to do it or not, it comes. This period infuses the faith to go beyond that, go beyond fear, go beyond limitations, go beyond the old patterns of self-sabotage to some extent, and find the space in which you're ready to create something more expansive for yourself. And this is the time when we need to give ourselves the space to breathe, to rejuvenate, to close the chapter, feed your soul, release, recharge, and introduce a new phase for yourself from 14th of March. 14th of March is when Mercury and Sun will meet together. It is called inferior conjunction in astrology. That is when the tide turns on the other side. That is the second half of Mercury retrograde, when we start planning forward, when we start making the groundwork required to move forward into the next phase. And there are epiphanies, there are aha moments, there are eureka moments that come around that time. The karmic events, because North Node is making a contact with Sun and Mercury at the time. So there are karmic contacts that we are introduced to, that we are introduced with, who will help us lead to this new path that we are moving towards. And that is the period when you have to allow yourself to go there. This could be through somebody who you meet as a result of somebody through family, somebody through home, somebody who you know, maybe your mother guides you through something, maybe somebody, a parent guides you through. But there is information through somebody who you know, who is dear to you, who understands this phase that you're going through, who gives you an information. At the very least, this information comes through your own soul, through your own self, on how to proceed forward, because we might be sitting on a fence right now. This is normal. If you're sitting on the fence right now, it's normal. It's very normal because we are taking a significant phase of life into our hands. And before we take a call, before we go into something which is bigger than ourselves, if we are sitting on the fence, use this phase to evaluate whether you want to go for it or not. Or what are your thoughts about it? What are the negative thoughts about it? Because you have to deal with what's under the surface for something which is over the surface to change. So the Mercury retrograde in our 12th house of soul, of faith, of things beyond what we can see is about dealing with the things that are below the surface. So the things on the top of the surface can change because 90% of our world is below the surface, right? We have most of the things that we do outside, they're driven by our own drive inside, our faith inside, are we afraid of doing something or not? So you will not be able to proceed forward if you have fear about it. There are two things. There's a healthy fear about going for something because you're excited about it, and there's a fear because you don't feel ready for it, or you feel there are questions in your mind about it. So deal with them right now. We may not have all the answers, but it is an exercise in which we need to engage. But this is not the period where we have to indulge in our negative thoughts. This is a period where we are trying to introduce faith within our fears. We're trying to sort of remove this thought process where we are waiting for the other shoe to drop. We have to remove that phase. So that is the first key transit that is happening, and you'll see that till 28th of March this will continue. So that's why I suggest that new things should be started in our season in April, not in March. But if you have to sign something, you have to begin something, you have to initiate a project, just be careful in terms of the content of it. And the second thing to be careful about is the impetus, just purely your emotional stability. How do you react to an emotional impetus will be tested during this time. It could be because our patience is tested. It could be because somebody irritates us. It could be because a secret comes out. There might be an emotional impetus to which our response is tested. And we are sort of here, when a Mercury goes retrograde in a water sign, our emotional maturity is the one that is tested. What we are tested on, and to some extent what we grow into, is the next phase of how do we react to something emotionally. What is the stability, and how deep is our intuition about things? How much do we allow our intuition to play a part in our path? That is tested during this time. And how do we behave when we don't know where we are going, but we still have to go? So these are the things that are part of the Mercury retrograde. The second very, very beautiful transit that is happening is that Uranus is moving into Taurus on 6th of March. Uranus is an energy that we are aware of. It is an awakener. It makes us aware of where we are not giving us the freedom to become who we could become. And now it's moving into a house of resources on 6th of March. It is a very long-term transit. It will continue till 27th of April 2026. So it is a 7-year cycle of changing the way we feel secured in our resources, changing the way in which we create value out of our unique talents. How do we earn our money? How do we create resources for us? What kind of resources we like? What is the taste that we have in our resources? What are the things that we draw on to gain strength? Whether it is food, whether it is money, it is our value system. What do we feed on is defined by this house. And that is going to go through a innovation phase. And this is where our untraditional way of handling our talents, of handling our resources, of materializing our genius comes into play. People who earn money from conventional sources would have to figure out how to change that here. We have to get proactive with this. And this happened last year. The first time Uranus touched upon Taurus was in May of 2018, and it stayed there till November of 2018 before it went back into Aries. So that was a sampler of sort, and you can look back if there were any trends that were introduced to you from last year itself in terms of how do you make money, what kind of talents you want to make money from, what kind of money you want to make, what kind of resources you want to go for and acquire, or do you want to leave the resources and travel and do something else in your life? Do you want to be detached from fixity to some extent? Those thought processes come into full action now. with Uranus moving into Taurus for good for the next 7 years, and this is the first month that change is happening, so it will be felt very deeply. More importantly, this is happening along with the new moon that is happening at the start of March. So the new phase that we are starting, that has the stamp of this change, that has a stamp of this shift that has happened, this innovation, this awakener, this fluctuation that is getting introduced, so we can sort of come out of a phase of stagnancy to some extent in the way we value ourselves, in the way we create value for ourselves in the world. And Uranus and Taurus is not about taking undue financial risk. That is not what it is about, because this is a transit that gets colored by which sign it is in, and Uranus is in a stable sign now. So the changes that happen in Uranus and Taurus happen with careful planning, which means that if you want to start your own business, you want to change the way you are going to make money now, or you want to shift your career, the key to success in that will be to clearly define how you would go about it, how you would. It is sort of a no-brainer as well, right? We should do it anyways. But Uranus in Aries is, which we had for the last 7 years, was a startup culture. It is like we just start something, an idea comes to our mind and we just go for it. It was about getting started. It was about getting kick-started. But Uranus in Taurus is about creating value out of what you're getting started, creating value out of the talents which are unique in nature. This was Uranus in second house. Michelangelo had it from birth. This is a sign of a genius. This is a sign of a genius talent, a talent that is so unique that did not exist before. So we start doing something which is very, very unique, which is individualistic. This is a talent which is unique from your peers. Your peers may not be doing that. It could be a first in itself. It could be unique in itself. But because of it being in Taurus, you have to meet that sign halfway. You have to meet it halfway by knowing where you're doing, by being orderly about it, by having some sort of approach, broad approach to how you're going about it. And there has to be a tangible outcome at the end of it, because that's what Taurus demands. Taurus demands a little bit, a semblance of stability, a semblance of material success, a semblance of getting something out of what you're doing. So it makes these two energies are different from each other. Uranus is unconventional, Taurus is conventional. So when the unconventional meets the conventional, they both have to meet midway to support each other to create something of value. So the innovation has to meet some amount of stability. When Uranus last went in Taurus, it was because it's a 84-year cycle. That last happened on 6th of June 1934. 6th of June 1934 was when the SEC Act was formed. If any of you know what SEC is, it is essentially the commission that regulates all the security exchanges. So all the trading that happens in NASDAQ or NYC or any other exchanges, the securities that are traded in these exchanges, that is regulated by SEC. SEC was established because the thought process at the time was that we want to encourage markets, the commercial markets to develop, the security market to develop, but on the right basis, on the right rules, or having some sort of planning around it, having rules around it, so investors are taken care of. So investors don't lose all their money. So there were rules that were created to encourage investor participation in the sale of securities in the market. So that is when the last Uranus and Taurus transit initiated. So understanding what was sort of given birth to at the time, that is the element that we are dealing with. We are dealing with a very spontaneous energy, but where we need to follow some amount of blueprint, some amount of orderly approach to make it happen, because it's not going to be easy money. This is not about easy money which is coming through a windfall by us not having a plan and just having an idea and going for it. So it's a bit different from Uranus in Aries, and that is, in my view, a very, very clear, and it's important to understand this difference. It is a key for your success on how to make this a success, but you will realize new talents. These will be original, progressive. These will be very, very progressive ideas that will come to you in spurts, in flashes, and you will make money out of them if you plan properly, if you lay down the ground, if you stay true to the qualities of Taurus in that, in the sense that we are not just fools, are not rushing in here, we are planning and going in for it. What we need to be ready for, though, is that there will be some amount of fluctuation in income that comes with it, because individuality is favored, but individuality will come in terms of its value of it will come in spurts. So the fluctuation in income could be experienced, especially if you're leaving a conventional job and going for something else. The income fluctuation should be and would be expected as a part of this. But what happens here is that our own thought process of how much value we attach to material sources, to money, that itself will change, in my view, because there is a different kind of way we feed ourselves, right? Sometimes we feed with the actual money, and sometimes we feed ourselves with the experience that that money is giving us. So the way we feed our soul is changing as a part of this exercise, and there's something else that we derive value out of it. It doesn't mean that money will not be made. It just means that we need to stay flexible to that aspect, the material aspect of things. Even if we plan, even if we go in, normally the kind of careers that are taken on, or the kind of new ventures that are taken on, there is a fluctuation in monetary value to it, which is attached to it. At the very least, you'll need freedom in the work that you're doing. Even if you stick to your current job, the kind of job that you do in the conventional business would have to have some innovation. It could be in form of technology being introduced, you're working with a new technology, you're working with some new way of doing things, and you need to have some amount of freedom in doing that from authority figures. Your creativity and your talents cannot be squashed here. You have to be given the air to breathe in terms of your talents, in terms of your creativity. Otherwise, you will feel very, very restless during this period. So you have to nurture your innovator, you have to nurture your progressive self, you have to nurture your latent talents. And what will happen during this period, and if it hasn't happened yet, is that we suddenly realize certain talents because the inhibition to your innate creativity gets removed. So if there were gifts that we have, the talents, the creative talents that we have that we were not acknowledging earlier, the inhibition to them gets unplugged and we start realizing them. If we haven't been able to externalize them because we did not have faith in them, because we did not have the opportunity, because we did not have the confidence maybe to come out with them, they sort of come out. There's something that gets unplugged here, and we get liberated from an unsuitable position, from a restrictive position, from a work that does not support our creativity to some extent, and we are sort of set free from there to see that we get a value out of what we do, to get value out of these innate talents. It's not about becoming too secure, because you will not be able to do this by sticking to too much security at this stage. This is about introducing innovation into your life and taking a risk, but it's not about betting the farm. It is about putting some money away, and the way to do this, one of the suggestions on how to do this, and you have to see in your own unique situations how you do it. When Uranus is in Taurus, because this is a fixed area for us, right? We like the security of having the possessions and the money. Everybody does. But especially with the fixed sign there, there's a resistance to change to the monetary position. So putting some money away in terms of a security, in terms of a safety. So your Taurus is quenched there. Sometimes doing that lets a person's creativity come out more openly, more clearly. Sometimes that helps liberate this latent talent, this creativity that is blocked right now because we are concerned about security. So this is the area, and I thoroughly believe that most of the Aries are there, because Uranus in Aries does that as well. Uranus in Aries sort of removes our fear to be who we truly want to become. So being fake is not even a choice anymore, and it has not been a choice ever for Aries. But even if there was something which was unauthentic in the way we were working, because we all work in a society, so we have to keep up with the world. Whatever is unauthentic has to go and be released to some extent, and this is sort of the beginning of that. If you have not experienced that last year when Uranus moved into Taurus in May of 2018, you will experience that now. You will experience that the inertia needs to give way, the delaying, the procrastination, if you have felt before in terms of getting rid of something and moving forward, and the impetus, even if there was from inside and you did not see things moving outside, things start moving now. Things sort of go in a direction where no one should feel underused here. Every Aries, in my view, with this transit, the innate creativity, the innate talent, the promise of Uranus is to utilize you fully, to give you the freedom to be who you came here to become, and give you sort of the confidence to go for it, the confidence to use yourself fully. Because we all have been gifted with something or the other by the higher power, and this is the lifetime for us to make use of that. So we sort of wake up to our personal resources, to our gifts, to consider that in a way, how do I leverage that for material realization? How do I materialize my genius here? How do I give the freedom that is required for me to actualize my self-worth here? And this adds to your self-worth. This sort of releases the feeling that I cannot become that. This is somebody else. There is a certain type of person only who does that. That kind of thought process that inhibits us from doing it, that is removed, and the talent makes way somehow to show itself up. To show itself up in the open, in the eye of the others. And there is a originality, a progressive approach that is depicted by you, whether it is in your existing job, in your existing career. It could be a conventional line where you bring something different, or it could be a completely new start where you begin something that has not been done before, because Aries are supposed to be pioneers. So pioneering in the way we make material realization of our talents, which are unique in nature, that is what we are pioneering right now. And in terms of the directions where this innovation can come from, Uranus rules innovation in form of technology, especially. Everything is technology right now, but introducing new tech into what you do, getting engaged on online markets, online trading, untraditional healing methods, untraditional way of medicine, untraditional way of food, diets, even for ourselves. I mean, changing the way we eat in terms of how we feed our body, having an unconventional diet from what we normally have. So these are the outdated things or outdated attitudes that need to be given up. And similarly, the kind of things that we own, that we get interested in buying in. For example, the kind of art we buy, the kind of music we listen to, the kind of food we buy, the kind of fixed assets we buy. And it could be that our interest in fixed assets might be removed. We may not want the fixity in the assets that we own, because we want to have the freedom to move about, freedom to go where we want. So freedom both in our personal life as well as in our professional life in terms of our resources and the talents that we engage in. You come up with unconventional business ideas, and I highly recommend to listening to your hunches, to listening to the ideas that are coming your way. And if you're working in a company and you wish to continue with that, provide yourself the flexibility to be able to work there. Working on commissions, working part-time, changing your work hours, some sort of innovation in how you're working or the kind of line you're working in, or maybe investing in technology in the work that you're giving, that you're part of, or giving a bit to humanitarian causes as well. That is also something that could mean getting ahead of the energy. And artistic taste in what you do, it's sort of where we want to try something away from ordinary, and it will channel a very different side of you. It is not about becoming too secure, as I said. It's about utilizing yourself fully and bringing your whole self to what you do and how you generate value. You have to dig deep here to determine your unique legacy, your unique resources. You're ready to realize the value of those, and it will lead to more self-reliance, it will lead to more independence, it will sort of lead to true liberation that we feel when we go beyond the dependency on things, dependency on others, dependency on corporations, dependency on fixed structures. And at the start, as I said, you will feel a little bit unsteady, because that's how it starts, right? I mean, we have experience of Uranus in our own sign. There's no other sign better place to cope with this as compared to us. We know how unsteady it feels in the start, but in the end we find ourselves, we find our way. So there is a spontaneity to it, there's a freedom to it, and there is a material money value to it. But we need to make sure here that even though individuality and unique talents are appreciated and are favored to be displayed, impatience and lack of planning will not work well during this cycle. So this is a long-term cycle, but I wanted to go into full detail of that because it colors not just now for you. Uranus will stay direct till August of this month. So the cycle which is starting now, you will see certain external changes in your material reality, I feel, over the course of next couple of months, and it is a preview of what's about to come. Uranus will continue to pan out for the next couple of changes. So we sort of brace for it, but at the start of it, you see the shifts, and we are seeing the shifts to some extent not in a good way, but Taurus rules the surface of the earth. So the shift in that, in terms of the environmental changes that we are seeing, and those are happening because sometimes we are not proactive enough to protect what we have as well, right? Protecting our environment. If we have not been been proactive in making the changes, the unconventional changes, even though the unconventional sources of energies were introduced, but maybe not at the speed required to sort of manage the earthly changes. And some of them are happening right now. We can see that in the world around that. But as I said, try to get ahead of that. Staying in the current situation, staying with the conventional and not reinventing ourselves financially, materially, will not be in our favor at this point in time. Let's get into now the other transits that are there during the course of this month. The 6th of March new moon that is happening in Pisces, which is happening around 15-16 degree of Pisces. It's happening in your house of unconscious. This is the same area where Mercury is retrograde. So you're being sort of asked to let go the old cycle. This is a time when maybe you want to start some faith exercise, because what happens, another thing that happens with Uranus and Taurus is that it does stimulate our endocrine system and our nervous system a little bit too much sometimes. So we need to introduce something that will help us, especially if we have a thyroid which is sensitive to changes. We want to be careful in terms of engaging in some sort of self-care, some sort of regular exercise. It could be yoga, it could be a faith-based practice, it could be a spiritual practice. There's a peace required to some extent to handle this. So because the speed of a sudden event sometimes stimulates the thyroid gland too much. So if you do have that, or even if you don't have it, just being proactive with it, that we need to introduce something on a regular basis for our self-care. If you have not done that before, it is anyways required with Saturn squaring our sun or moon. If you're an Aries sun or moon, or even ascendant, there is no question asked that we need to get ahead on the fitness being. So this is sort of a new moon where we are given the opportunity to initiate something. I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a mother here, but this is something which is required. It is something that cannot be ignored anymore, and it is important for you to get into that spiritual practice, get into a self-care routine that will be part of this new moon. But more importantly, this is infusion of fresh faith into our capabilities, and some amount of information that we did not see before will also, in my view, get revealed over the next couple of days, which is sort of helpful to you in your journey forward. It could be somebody who's helping you behind the scene, or there was help which is coming which you did not realize, or there might be things that were happening behind the scene that were there for your benefit, or there might be just an overall hand of somebody higher than us who is supporting you through this journey that you feel as a part of this new moon from 6th of March to 19th of March, but especially during the first couple of days of this new moon. On 8th and 9th of March, we have Moon in Aries. So there's an emotional reset that happens as a follow-up to that. And you'll feel that there is a new cycle which is about to begin. We slowly start coming over and above the horizon as compared to before. From 7th to 13th of March, Mars and Neptune are working together. We're still working in the background. We're still functioning in the background, not launching something, but you start laying down the groundwork for your resources, for your work. Maybe there is a purchase that you need to do that you're evaluating, or there might be a way of making more revenue out of your talents that you're looking at, and you start evaluating that, and there's more inspiration that comes through in the coming day on that. Sun and Saturn are also meeting around 10th of March. I think that is the day when we start realizing the forward movement, that there are new ideas that are coming in terms of change in our career, in terms of change in what we do and how we do it. From 11th to 15th of March is when I feel though that the clarity emerges. Especially around 14th of March is when an epiphany moment happens, whether it is through interaction with somebody, and it could be just at home. We realize something in the comfort of our home, or just by giving ourselves the time, or through interaction with somebody, something unlocks. I feel on 14th of March, something will unlock. Some important piece of puzzle is given to you, and important information is given to you, which gives you a clarity of purpose on how to move forward on this, and how to move forward in general in your career, because Sun and Pluto are also meeting together. They're focused on your house of career, and Sun and Jupiter are meeting together. There's positivity in it. There is a little bit of luck, an element of luck there, some amount of strength and ambition in terms of what you want to do, faith in your ambition, faith in what you want to do. That gets introduced either through an event, through a person, through an interaction, which happens between 11th to 15th of March, but specifically around 13th, 14th or 15th of March in my view. And that is also the time when Pluto and South Node, they are close enough to start showing up. So the realization that the karma with some cycle, some way of being in your career is done, and there is an implementation of releasing an old way of being, an old responsibility, an old career, old way of being, an old project. Something has to be given up during the course of April. And the realization of that sets in around 14th of March in my view, and a new structure of that starts emerging. The new structure will become more potent during the course of April, especially towards the end of April when Saturn and South Node work together. There's a karmic debt that is getting paid off, and a new cycle is beginning over there with your new moon in April, which starts forming the foundation of the next 30 years of your career. So there is a release of sorts which is coming as a result of that. Then on 14th of March, you also have Mars and Saturn together. So there is some amount of activity over the surface that starts. So from 14th of March, we start planning ahead, we start researching ahead, we start laying down the groundwork. Some information is given and we start working on it in terms of our career, in terms of the way sources of income, etc. You start working on it. This is specifically true if you have planets around 18 to 24 degree of Aries. Pluto is sitting at 22 degree of Aries, Saturn is around 18 degree, and this whole conjunction which will happen in April will be around 20 to 23 degrees of Aries. So if you have planets between 18 to 24 degree of Aries, you'll feel this in your core that something is about to shift significantly. So if you're an Aries sun, born between 7th of April to 14th of April, you'll feel a significant change, a transformation in the way you act, a change in terms of who you want to become. An incredible motivation to change your current situation will come through in the second half of the month, specifically between 17th to 22nd of March in my view, when Mars and Pluto meet together. Mars, your ruler, in your house of confidence, in your house of resources, meets with Pluto in your house of career. There is a new light, a new way of being, a new powerful beginning in how you want to make money in terms of your career that comes through in my view, which has a monetary element to it. And Venus is in your house of networking. So it could be through interaction with somebody who is influential in your network. It could be through somebody who likes you. It could be through you being recognized by somebody who's in a position of power at this point in time, because Venus and Jupiter are also meeting each other on 21st of March. So there's a recognition of your talents, of your vision. Some material success in terms of your vision comes through at the end of the month. Some sign that you're going in the right direction, and a helping hand coming through at the end of the month, in my view. On 15th and 16th, just being a little bit careful about the emotional impulses, because Moon will be in Cancer. So 15th and 16th of March specifically, being a little bit careful. Just wait a day or two to interact with people if you have to. 17th or 18th might be better at that time if you're sort of not able to feel comfortable in the skin. 17th and 18th of March are better days to sort of interact with people outward, maybe discuss with somebody, make an interaction. Especially from 19th of March, you'll be meeting with people who will come out to be lucrative to you, maybe finding a mentor, finding a supporter who supports you going forward. Mars and Pluto working together along with Venus and Jupiter around 20th and 21st of March makes that a very, very lucky period to act forward in terms of your career, to create value out of your new career venture, to sort of lay down the groundwork for what's about to come in terms of your new beginning. Then on 20th of the month, Sun moves into our sign. Happy birthday to Aries Sun who are born in March. Our season begins. This is a change, a complete shift, and you'll feel it in your core. This is vernal equinox. We feel the change in the season in both the hemisphere, whether it is spring or autumn, based on where you are. A season is changing and a new, complete new start is happening, and it is happening at 0 degree Aries. This is where we channel our individuality. This is where we emerge from the shadows into the light, and we sort of getting to leverage who we are and sort of who we can become. And there's a confidence in our new beginning at this point in time. There's a lot of power in it because Mars and Pluto are together. Pluto is infusing confidence, faith, energy into our actions, into our being. We feel very, very powerful and confident to go for it. And at that time, on 21st of March, we have the full moon that happens. This is the last super moon that's happening this year. We have been having super moon for the last 3 months. A super moon is when moon is closest in its cycle to Earth. So its influence on Earth is felt very deeply and felt at an emotional level. The last 2 months as well, we have been having super moon. So the moon have been very, very influential in terms of changing things for us, in terms of bringing some phases to completion, in terms of shifting the way we feel more deeply about what's happening in our life. And you'll feel very deeply at this point in time, there's a recognition of sorts of the last 6 months that comes through. A conclusion of the last 6 months that comes through with the full moon that is happening at 0 degree Libra in your house of partnerships. But because it is at 0 degree, it affects your house of work and health as well. There's a light that is thrown to your house of work. There's some conclusion of a project, some phase of your career, some phase of your work, the way you want to work, that's coming to an ending and conclusion at this point in time. It could just be a project that is coming to conclusion, or it could be an actual career that you're deciding that you're done with it and you want to move to the next one, and you want to have a new beginning in April, and that is coming to in conclusion. And this is a very, very beneficial full moon. Whichever way you decide, the full moon is very, very beneficial for you in long run, because we have Venus and Jupiter. The ruler of this full moon is meeting with the great benefic Jupiter during the time of this full moon. So there is a lucky element to it. There is an element of recognition of a forward-looking vision. There's a recognition of a positive karma flowing in with Jupiter in your house of karma, in your house of positive karma, in your house of travel, in your house of adventure, in your house of expansion of knowledge, expansion of mind. That coming together with the ruler of that full moon is giving you a signal that an expansive cycle is about to begin and an old cycle is coming to an end. And there is a recognition of what all you have done in the last 6 months, that there's sort of a recognition that you've come far in your journey, and a possible monetary reward of that, because Mars and Venus are also meeting each other during this time, and Mars is in your house of resources. So there is a possibility of a monetary element coming through from somebody powerful, because Pluto in your house of career brings about powerful men, powerful people in our life. And Mars in the second house is about creating more value, more confidence, more faith, more resources for us. So through, it could be through an authority figure, it could be through a person who is there in our circle, an authority approval coming through for what we want to do, an authority approval in how we want to make money, or a social approval on our talents coming through, a token of recognition coming through, which gives us a clue that we are going in the right direction at the time. And then on 24th of March, we have Mercury and Neptune together. There's a deep insight into the new start that comes through, a deep faith which goes beyond words. It's a very, very inspiring, very emotionally positive aspect, a healing aspect that is coming through on 24th of March, which heals all that you've been through, so we can start fresh in April of 2019. On 26th of March, Venus will move into Pisces, so the personal life or the love life, it's possible that that might go into the background, but at the same time our faith is enhanced. We feel more confident about what we are going into. On 28th of March, we have Mercury going direct as well. Mercury will move into your sign only on 17th of April. So before that, it's possible that the communication is still happening below the surface, behind the scenes, but things start moving forward, and the new beginning can happen in April now. We can start signing things, we can start laying down the groundwork for this new start, we can start going ahead. And if you have been avoiding to travel, this would be a good time to do that. If the travel was delayed, this would be a good time to take a long distance journey as well, especially in the initial half of April. Please note that Jupiter will go retrograde on 10th of April. Now, Jupiter goes retrograde 6 months a year. It happens every year. It's not a nuance or anything that is significant in nature, but being careful that the opportunity flow will slow down after 10. So the things that are coming through might come through in the next coming days to you, all the way to 10th or 11th of April. But some of us, and many of us like I do, we have Jupiter retrograde in our planet, in our birth chart, so we don't feel it. Sometimes it's not felt as well because of that. But just in case, if there are things that you need to get approval from authority figures, there are things that you need to get funding for, there are publications that you need to make, those kind of things try to do in the first 10 days of April if possible. That is a better time to do that. Then on 31st of March, Mars will move into the third house of communication. So you know that for the next month and a half, things are going to get very busy. When Mars is in third house, we are busy communicating, we are busy dealing, we are busy making commercial things happen, and that's the way to do it. So I am really looking forward to everything that is coming ahead for us. One thing to note about as part of this full moon is that our health will be highlighted. So if there are any things in the health department, as I said before, take care of your health at this point in time. Get ahead of that energy, get ahead of Uranus sort of charging us up, and it will charge us up. So the unconventional way of healings work very well when Uranus is the one that is sort of causing the nervous system to get overactive or us to get restless, etc. Those kind of energies, they're better dealt with unorthodox forms of healing, again done under certified practitioner. So good luck for that, and I'm looking forward to this new phase we are entering together. It's a very, very powerful new beginning that is coming ahead of ourselves. Good luck to all of us, and I look forward to seeing you in April. Thank you.